Hey y'all, welcome to Gadfly, the podcast about third parties, French candidates, and just generally weird American electoral history. I'm Dusty Wilson.
I am once again Una O'Leary.
You know what? It is unfair how you get to always change up the way you say things. I gotta keep things normal and fine and be the straight man in this fucking combo.
I just like to remind our audience that we do the intros live.
Yeah, you come out here throwing pies and shit, and it's, I do appreciate that. This isn't like some shitty radio station broadcasting out of LA to 50 different stations.
We could have done one take and been done with it,
Oh
have it
God.
fixed in post. But we're here for the audience. We're here for you, listeners.
That's a beautiful corporate mindset, and I'm trying to think now what else we could do that for, if anything.
My groans.
Yeah. Oh my God.
That could just be like
oh my God.
an add-in button.
Is this what corporate podcasts do?
Oh my God.
They just save this shit up and like intersperse it?
I don't know. I don't listen to Barstool's whatever.
Yeah, we hate women and the Jets might win.
Yes. Yeah, that one.
Yeah.
You're familiar with it.
Yeah. Anyway, so if you remember last week, we started talking about a guy named Benigno Fitial, who is the founder of the Covenant Party in the Commonwealth of the Northern Mariana Islands, which is a territory of America. When we last left him, he decided he was going to run for governor, predominantly because he had the backing of the largest companies in the entire Commonwealth, Tan Holdings, which do garment manufacturing on the backs of people who are being forced to work 7 days a week in 12-hour shifts and being paid at least below half minimum wage on a regular basis.
No jokes, just revolt.
Yeah, and most of these workers are Filipino and Chinese immigrants who, thanks to the lax immigration standards of the Commonwealth, are brought in, can work there for less than any money, and then are forbidden from traveling anywhere else in America. So are pretty much stuck once they get there. So, good operating procedure. And so Benigno, when we last left him, he runs for governor. He also has the backing of the Saipan Times, which is the newspaper owned by Tan Holdings.
So convenient.
Not the worst. But despite this, he does end up losing the governor's race in 2001. So he goes on, he decides to be the bank president of the Bank of Saipan, stumblefucks his way into a huge con that happens behind his back as two dudes come in and defraud the bank of $6.6 million. But Benigno spins it in such a way that pretty much none of the blame falls on himself, and it makes it look like he's trying to defend the workers of the bank, and not the fact that he just completely ignored the two people who got hired and just approved them because he was going to get a sweet dividend out of the deal. That's where we left him. So when the 2003 election season comes around, he's going to once again run for the House and gets it. Pretty much an easy win. There's no information about it. It's just like he took 2 years off running the Bank of Saipan, didn't go well, and just immediately went right back into government the second he had the chance. But him getting the speaker seat was kind of incredible because in this year, the Covenant Party had also succeeded in getting the majority in the House and the Senate, which is all the more frustrating. There aren't more details on how the party succeeded so well, aside from people really liking Benigno. So now we have a third party that controls one of the two branches of the government currently.
Oh boy. This is the best that we've ever seen our little third parties do.
I know, right? It's, we haven't talked about the ultra successful ones just yet, but we haven't talked about the Greenbacks really, or the Whigs. We talked a little bit about the Know Nothings who did have some level of success, but yeah, on a statewide level, this is fucking huge. But really, there isn't that much information about him being speaker this time around because once again, he's just doing his job. He's laying low. He's not getting into any controversy. And this is because his ultimate goal is in 2005 to run for governor again.
Love a long con.
Exactly, the short-term long con. So on November 4th, 2004, Benigno would announce his candidacy at a Citizenship Day family picnic. He would state, quote, "I know why I lost, so I think I pretty much know how to run to win."
Okay, in fairness, I saw an old film noir from I guess the late 40s where it followed this populist type character. Very much it was based on Huey Long, which we'll get to in a much
Is this
further.
the one that starred the dude from Andy Griffith? Because there's a really, really good movie starring Andy Griffith that's very much based on Huey Long.
I don't know if it was. It might have been.
Yeah, because he's some guy in prison and they do a radio story about him. No?
Oh, no.
Oh, we need to watch that sometime. It's amazing. It's Andy Griffith acting his ass off. And he could have been a very very serious actor if he just didn't hate playing the character so much that he's like, I'm just going to play good people. I'm fine. It's like bad for my mental health.
Aw,
Yeah.
sweet of him. It was not that movie.
Okay.
This movie was like he came out from the farmlands and then like he kept losing elections. And then finally it was just like, I may have lost the election, but now I know how to win. And spoiler alert, the winning was through like shenanigans.
Yeah, pretty much.
Corruption.
And this is kind of a big deal. Like we've said it before. Benigno's not exactly the best wordsmith around, but he does have a huge moment of growth here where he admits that there are things that he could have done better. He is not a man who likes to be told he did something wrong, and so for him to admit this is really, really big. And he was able to note two things that he needed to change for this next election season. First, he noted he really didn't meet enough voters one-on-one. And so for this campaign, he was going to go to every single house on all three populated islands and meet as many people as he could.
He's going to check the registrars and see who has signed up for a Saipan newspaper subscription and go to every home.
Mm-hmm. But the other was actually probably the better plan. And that is, he really didn't play the family dynasty game that much the first time around. So one of the things that is noted in a number of sources, a little more crudely on the website saipansucks.com and a little less crudely on Mariana's Variety and the Saipan Tribune, is that family dynamics are humongous in Northern Mariana Island politics. In regards to that, you have these gigantic families such as, whether it's the Sablin, Guerrero, Palacios, or the De Leon family, they're huge. And almost all of these families have a very strict political leaning that they do not sway from. And so if you're, say, a Republican, you're really going to want to get, I believe it's the De Leon family, I believe was a Republican family. You're really going to want them on your side because if you're not a member of the family, you're going to have that voting block if you have any chance of winning. And so the first time around, he really didn't try to do that. And he had chosen Rita Inos to run with him. And the Inos family is fairly big. It's just not the biggest. And so this time around, he picked someone from a very large political family to help him out. He would select Vice Speaker of the House Timothy Villagomez. The Villagomez family was very large, powerful, but the problem is that they were really tight with the Republican Party. And since he's in the Covenant Party, that means he's asking the family to split or to switch entirely to the Covenant Party. The problem is you have a lot of hardliner Republicans in that family who will never split, and you have some people in the family who will follow Timothy. And the Mariana's Variety and the Saipan Tribune would note, this is the very first gubernatorial election where families were forced to split their allegiances.
Ooh.
And it created a lot of inner turmoil, a lot more than people were used to in these elections.
That's kind of exciting.
Yeah. But Benigno would need a lot more than scoring a big running mate if he was going to win as a third-party candidate, especially running against an incumbent. Republican Juan Babada had crushed Benigno in the 2001 election, and he hadn't exactly fallen into unpopularity by any regard. By all rights, Juan would have another easy election, but of course, he would be fucked over by short-sighted party bullshit. So the rule for both of the major parties in the Northern Mariana Islands is that to select their nominees, they do not hold primaries. It is all chosen by the party during a convention, and that is it. So, of course, Juan being the incumbent, he's pretty much the guaranteed nominee no matter what. But in 2005, he would get a sudden challenger. Heinz Hofschneider was a member of the House and served as Speaker of the House during the time in between Benigno's times that he ran for governor. Heinz had made a name for himself as a representative who fought against graft and corruption. His biggest swing came in 1991 when he called for the impeachment of Governor Larry Guerrero for purchasing a $5 million generator from Mitsubishi without having $5 million allocated in the yearly budget. Heinz would run an audit and found that Guerrero had misappropriated funds. Guerrero wouldn't be impeached, but Heinz had really made a name for himself as someone who actually didn't do corrupt shit.
At the very least, looked at the books. Read numbers.
Yes. I'm pretty sure we can't afford $5 million of something. Let me double check. Oh, yeah, we can't.
Everyone else is like, why are you talking?
Heinz would end up being removed as the GOP nominee in the next election for the House, but ended up winning as an independent. And weirdly enough, he stayed in the Republican Party during this time.
Okay, but...
Yeah, no, you leave. Fuck you, you leave.
Okay, yeah, that's fine.
He would end up having a long corruption-free career in the House. By 2005, he figured he'd waited long enough and that he just really wanted to try for the GOP nomination for the seat. And, for a party that didn't have primaries, that was a really big ask. But Heinz was willing to compromise. If the party agreed to have a primary and he lost, then he promised to immediately endorse Juan and not run as an independent. But you know how party leadership can be. This would be a challenge to not just their authority, but the most powerful member of their party. So they refused to have a primary and re-endorsed Juan. And Hines, feeling this was a betrayal too far, left the GOP for good and chose to run as an independent for governor. Many supporters of Hines would note that their entire choice to support him was a reaction to the GOP refusing to hold a primary.
But he knew they would. Okay.
Yeah. As for the Democrats, being a Democrat in the Northern Mariana Islands has never been a good choice. They initially were the Popular Party, which was quite popular for some time, became the Democrats, and then just everything fell apart after that started happening. They've often been very
welcome to the rest of America.
They've often been very lucky to maybe get 2 or 3 elected representatives, at least in the more modern times. So it's not been a fun time. And they hadn't won a gubernatorial election since 1993. So they kind of needed a miracle to be competitive. And the GOP splitting in the primary and splitting even further with the Covenant Party siphoning support, this would be the best chance that they had had in a decade. So they selected the guy who had been governor the last time to be their nominee. Froilan Tenorio, on paper, would seem like a good choice if all that was on that paper was he used to be governor.
Oh no. Dems in disarray!
During Froilan's tenure, he was actually a very close ally with Benigno, mainly in the fight to keep U.S. labor law and minimum wage out of the Commonwealth. His tenure otherwise would become known for a pair of controversies. For one, he passed an executive order that allowed him to hire or fire anyone he wanted at will in the federal government with a position of division director or higher. An employee would be subsequently fired, sued Tenorio, and resulted in a very lengthy and costly lawsuit that ultimately found the executive order was unconstitutional. But what also didn't help was another scandal in 1997, wherein $29 million of tax rebates went missing.
Oh
no. People immediately started to assume that Tenorio took the money, and he would lose re-election because of this scandal.
And he was like, they're just rebates, guys. It's like coupons. I just misplaced the coupons. This is how it works, right?
After the election, the Department of Finance found that it was actually an accounting error, and nothing was really missing.
Oh.
Yeah. But the thing, though, is that nominating someone with even a fake scandal is still not the best of ideas. I would like to cite Hillary Rodham Clinton. Yes.
Oh, come on.
She has not murdered 15 people, but that story still lingers. And it freaks out a lot of people who don't do the research.
Why get the shade of impropriety when you can have actual impropriety in perpetuity with Trump?
Not wrong at all. I am just saying, yes, Froilan did not do anything wrong in regards to these taxes, but there are definitely people who still think he did. And maybe you should look elsewhere just to be safe if this is like your first chance in a decade to really win. And turns out there actually was someone willing to step forward. Commonwealth Senator Luis Crisostimo would seek the Democratic nomination, and just like Hines, asked for there to be a primary. And just like the GOP, the Democrats refused. And also like Hines, Luis would decide to run on his own. But more like Benigno, he floated starting his own party, which I believe he called the National Democrats, or the Democratic National Party.
Nice.
He would run for a bit, but ultimately dropped out by midsummer. Froilan, though, would also make kind of his own little step on his dick mistake. And this is mostly because he just made bad plans. One bad plan in particular. Initially, he named a dude by the name of Vicente Camacho to be his running mate. The problem, though, is he didn't ask Vicente if he wanted the job before making the announcement. And shortly after announcing, Vicente said, "I am not interested, and I will not be doing this."
He Kanye'd him? He just threw him on the ballot? No.
Yep. Yep.
Or form.
It would take Froilan until mid-June to find a running mate willing to take the job. He'd eventually end up taking this dude named Antonio Santos, who was a teacher, and no shade to the job or the profession, but a person having a private sector job running for governor in the Northern Mariana Islands is extraordinarily rare and probably was not looked well when that happened. So Dems very much in disarray.
Also, can we comment on the sprinkling of what sound to be Germanic last names?
Yes, we actually can talk about that.
Hey!
There is a real reason. If you remember in episode 1, Germany owned most of the islands for quite some time.
That's right.
Which left behind some people taking on Germanic names or Germanic people staying there and their families continuing on.
Das ist cool.
Yeah. I believe Heinz's kid was named Jude, like Jude Heinschneider. Yeah, June Hofschneider.
Young Hofschneider.
Yes. So all this is a way of saying that amidst all this drama, Benigno actually had a chance to win this time around. His campaign would focus primarily on jobs, education, and tourism. They promised to better fund vocational education programs, to improve all school buildings, to remove a 2-year work experience requirement for new nurses. Apparently, they would have to work for 2 years within a medical setting before they could then go and be actual nurses. And the school of nursing at the university there is huge, and it's like one of the main jobs that would come out of this. And so they would go to like the Philippines or America to work. And so by removing this, you can just graduate and then immediately be a nurse.
Oh, nice.
He also promised to advertise more in China and Japan to attract more tourists, to build more hotels, to purchase larger commercial planes with more seating, and to ensure better security for tourists. They'd also support ending plurality to win elections, which is like just having the biggest number no matter what, and moving more towards having a majority where you have to have more than 50% to win. And finally, they promised to get rid of all fuel surcharges on utility bills.
Oh.
Yeah, so it's just kind of a bland platform.
It's fine.
It's fine. It's all fine. Yeah.
It's fine.
So it seemed like it would be just kind of a normal election with just a hint of familial infighting. But that would all change on May 6th, because it turns out Benigno had been palling around with one of the biggest scumbags of the 20th century.
Ooh.
Jack Abramoff was born in 1959 in Atlantic City, New Jersey.
Stop! No!
Yeah. Oh, it's about to get bad. It's about to get very fucking bad. So Jack had been born into the kind of wealth that makes your teeth hurt when you think about it. His dad was an executive with Diners Club International, which is the company that invented credit cards.
Stole the idea from a black person, but fine, go on.
Wait, they did?
Yeah, I think the concept was floated by two black businessmen, and they were kind of laughed out of the room. And then,
oh my God.
Yeah, and I know this because it's built into the pilot of, I think, Fargo season 5.
Oh shit!
With Chris
Okay.
Rock. Yeah,
Okay.
worth your time.
Yeah, because the story itself that they tell is that the founder of the company, I think the guy's last name is McNamara. He's like at some fancy dining place in New York City, and then he goes to pay for the business dinner and realizes he left his wallet in his pants at home, and so his wife has to pay for it. And then it's all embarrassing. He's like, oh, if there was just a way I could have credit at these restaurants that no one trusts me because I'm a rich person.
Which is hilarious because the way at least like the way it is mythologized in this Fargo pilot is like two black guys pitching, and we're just like, to the bank, that's like, you could make a shit ton of money off of this. Like all it takes is a couple percentage points and you're gangbusters. And everyone's just like, why would I not carry cash? It's like,
right. Yeah. Apparently this McNamara guy was able to get the Diners Club started at this one restaurant. He actually had a piece of cardboard with his name and number on it for them to be like, okay, this is fine. And it eventually grew out from restaurants to hotels to car rental services to florist shops, and just became like a business card for rich people.
And then back around to Discover, which no one uses and is not accepted anywhere.
It's really funny you say that. No. Discover would buy Diners Club International, I believe, in the 90s. Like, technically, people still accept Diners Club. I just don't know where, because it's probably rich people places. Why would I go there?
Yeah.
Like at a Linear or something. Insert the most expensive restaurant where you live here.
I'm trying to think of like old money establishments.
Oh, right. It's probably at the Drake, or is that Old Money and Rich, or is that Tourist and Rich? I don't really know.
I think it's Tourist and Rich now. But yeah, like country clubs on the East Coast. I don't know.
Oh, that makes sense. The
Grosse Pointe Yacht Club. Fuck if I know.
Oh my God.
They look at my name, I get rejected from membership.
Yeah, you're lucky to even get into Grosse Pointe Shores. Get the fuck out of here.
They point me to the servants' entrance.
I think you meant to go to Hamtramck. Michigan jokes. That's all we're gonna.
Yeah.
I'll name the 8 cities I know of that sound kind of funny.
Lame Irish jokes.
Yeah, and so his dad is an executive at Diners Club, and Diners Club became such a huge success that decades later it paved the way for Visa and MasterCard. In 1969, the Abramoff family would move to Beverly Hills, California, and over the years, Jack would get into the 3 loves of all teenage boys: football, weightlifting, and Orthodox Judaism. Apparently, the last is because he saw Fiddler in the Roof and became very inspired.
He was a musical theater nerd too.
I think he just saw the movie. Let's not give him too much credit.
Fair enough. It's a good movie.
Yeah, I've actually never seen it. And I just know, like, I know as much about it as Gilmore Girls told me.
There you go.
So he also took on a hobby that most assholes enjoy in their early days: amateur bullying. So Jonathan Gold, who would eventually become a Pulitzer Prize-winning food critic, would note that in high school, Jack pushed him and his cello down a flight of stairs. This was a story that he told Ira Glass on an episode of This American Life.
I love it when famous people from different spheres know each other before they became
Mm-hmm.
like a peak favorite of mine is remembering that the screenwriter Craig Mazin was the freshman roommate of Ted Cruz
Yes, yes.
and like went out of his way on Twitter to be like, I can confirm this guy has always been the worst.
So Jonathan Gold would say of Jack, quote, he was the sort of person who would walk across the street to be unpleasant to somebody. And so after high school, Jack would take his bullying skills to Brandeis University, where he studied English and would serve as the Massachusetts chairman of the College Republicans and helped organize students for Reagan's 1980 presidential run. Jack would graduate in 1981, then went down to Georgetown University to get his law degree, and decided in the meantime to run for the College Republican National Committee. He would spend $11,000, and his campaign manager was Grover Norquist. He would win, and then stated that the point of College Republicans was, quote, not our job to seek peaceful coexistence with the left. And he also spent this speech to condemn anti-apartheid movements because they were obviously communist plots to take over South Africa, which was, if you'll remember, was a very strong Reagan administration talking point and why they hired Alan Keyes.
That's right. That's right. Well, and meanwhile, on college campuses, it's the only push to actually divest from South Africa, which did something in the end.
Yep. But remember, Jack Abramoff is not a good person, so he's going to make all the worst choices on the way to what he does.
Truly, and these worst choices aren't so much the surprise. I'm still hung up on the fact that he was an English major. It's like, really not econ. Interesting.
I think part of it is that it was just so obvious that he could kind of do whatever the fuck he wanted in undergrad that, the plan was probably go to law school and then get into the Reagan administration because his dad was tight with one of Reagan's best friends.
Come on.
One of the co-founders of Diners Club was this guy Alfred Bloomingdale. Yes, of that Bloomingdale's. And Alfred
Bloomingdale.
Yes. And Alfred was just best pals with Reagan. And so on the regular, if you wanted to get a job in the Reagan administration for your kid, it's one phone call and you're
and his family was based in Beverly Hills too, in LA.
Oh yeah. So they probably knew the Reagans even before all of that. So, yeah. And so pretty much, you could fuck around and do whatever you wanted in undergrad. You were pretty much set for whatever job you wanted. And so Jack did, in fact, pretty much get to define what he wanted to do throughout the 80s to build his career. In 1985, he started Citizens for America, which the whole goal of the group was to help Oliver North build public support for the Contras in Nicaragua. He would eventually have this conference for anti-communist paramilitary groups that included the Contras, UNITA, I believe, out of Angola, and the Mujahideen in Afghanistan.
Oh my God.
And got them all together to meet up and have a good time.
I'm just imagining him with like daddy's OG diner's card, using that to purchase the guns and military equipment. Be like, no, I just want the points. The Contra are going to pay me back. So no, let me put it on my card first.
Man,
I get Venmo me later.
Man, I get flight miles and I get to fight the commies. What a deal. And so after a year of doing that, the Reagan administration finally brings him on for a role as a member of the U.S. Holocaust Memorial Council. So, it's one of those nice cushy intro jobs that then probably leads to other stuff. I imagine it's very much a testing ground to see if you're too much of a lunatic to move higher up. And if you are, then I guess we'll put you in the CIA.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, because it's like, really, this kid is not screaming sensitivity to me, but you want to put him in charge of, okay.
Yeah, right. I mean, he loved Fiddler. How are you going to deny him his goal?
Hey, listen, teach their own, like, these are people, but you're a terrible person.
Yeah. So despite having this cushy intro job that could easily lead to so much more, Jack decided this actually wasn't for him. And after finishing his role on the council, he decided to take the route that a number of hard right assholes do. He was going to make it big in Hollywood. So, the Ben Shapiro, Steven Crowder, Steve Mnuchin path. It would take a number of years, but he would get his chance in 1989 when he and his brother Robert wrote and produced the film Red Scorpion. You know that classic.
The one with Jennifer Lawrence and she's doing a bad Russian accent.
No, it is not. It sounds like it would be, though. I mean, that's right. At least a good pitch. So the script is about a Soviet operative named Nikolai, who's played by Dolph Lundgren, who is sent to an unnamed African country, which I assume is we're just going to say Africa as a country.
Great.
It's already not great.
Right, yeah.
And he's sent there to kill an anti-communist guerrilla leader. But after failing and learning that maybe communism bad, he joins the rebels to fight the commies. The movie would make $5.2 million, was thoroughly disliked by critics, but worst of all, it was funded by an anti-apartheid group in South Africa that Jack had also founded.
Oh boy. Well, you gotta get funding.
So Jack would get one more chance. He was the executive producer for the sequel Red Scorpion 2, which featured no characters from the original, no actors from the original, and now they're fighting skinheads and neo-Nazis, I think in Philly.
Dusty, if you make me watch this for a movie night, I swear to God.
I mean, one day, but not soon.
Great. Like as much as I hate Hollywood's own navel gazing and nepotism, I wish these, like the Ben Shapiro's, I guess in this case, Jack Abramoff's, like that whole set, I wish they would just go and try Hollywood and stick to, like, please,
Yeah.
you do so much less damage to Hollywood. And the fact of the matter is they never last because it is actually, like, dare I say, talent based.
Yeah.
And it's like, why? Wait, oh no, why are they doing so much better in the government then?
Yeah.
Oh no.
Well, yeah, and I think the problem is that it's very much like the band Guns N' Roses. They showed up to hair metal a little too late. They still made their mark, and then Nirvana killed their career. I don't know what 90s movie would be the equivalent to killing off like Chuck Norris action movies. Maybe Home Alone, Jurassic Park, maybe
Jurassic Park
or Philadelphia. I don't know.
Ooh.
Like some movie in the early 90s made those movies passe and no one wanted to watch them anymore.
Reality Bites.
Ooh, yeah, let's go with Reality Bites. That's
okay, cool.
Or Dazed and Confused. I don't know. Yeah, something happened. Something happened and the tone shifted. And if they'd have just showed up there in like 83, or like if he graduated Brandeis and went straight to Hollywood, they probably could have made a decade-long career making shitty action movies that would have been, in retrospect, fun.
Yeah, had a tidy little coke habit that they then, went to rehab for in 92.
Yeah.
And whatever.
Yeah, you go to Playa del Sur, you get cleaned up, and then you're fine.
You meet your third wife.
Yeah, oh my God. So yeah, to be fair, he would get a third credit in that he was the producer for a how-to video that taught martial arts to kids and starred the Red Power Ranger and also featured the Black and Yellow Power Ranger as guests.
Wow.
Yeah.
That doesn't scream community service.
I don't know how you get asked to produce that. It's very baffling. But he agreed, and that would be his very last Hollywood credit for the rest of his life. So in 1994, Jack would give up and move to Seattle, where he would enter into the world of lobbying. And it turns out this is actually what he was meant to do. So he'd been hired specifically because the firm that had hired him in Seattle had no conservative lobbyists and no contact to the GOP. But in 94, the GOP had just destroyed the midterms on a historic level, and they needed someone to be able to get in there and get that money. Through this job, Jack would become friends with Texas Republican Congressman Tom DeLay. They'd work to guide legislation, such as killing a bill that would tax Native American casinos. But in 1995 is when we get to merge back into our main story. The Commonwealth of Northern Mariana Islands would hire Jack as a lobbyist, as well as a lawyer, via Jack's own private firm, to create policies that could help them continue to skirt around U.S. labor regulations and minimum wage laws. The fight to be able to pass this has been going on since the 90s, and the fight had been taken up most recently in this regard by Republican Senator Frank Murkowski of Alaska, who was the father of Lisa Murkowski, who's currently serving. He had asked the Department of the Interior to update their findings on employment in the Commonwealth, and things had gotten worse somehow. The department found that 91% of the workforce were immigrants and all were being paid far below minimum wage. Some workers had been forced to live in company towns and shacks with no plumbing and surrounded by barbed wire. Chinese immigrants in particular were horribly brutalized, with many women who were in the workforce being forced into abortions or being threatened to be fired.
Oh my God.
Other women and children who couldn't find work were then forced into human trafficking via local sex tourism.
Oh.
And following this hearing, Murkowski's bill passed unanimously in the Senate. And then Tom DeLay blocked it from even receiving a vote in the House.
Wow.
So if I were a pessimistic man, I might think that DeLay's decision was based on Jack giving him multiple all-expenses-paid trips to the Commonwealth, including an all-expenses-paid trip to Saipan on New Year's Eve in 1997. And while they're on this trip, DeLay would refer to the brutal capitalism on display as, quote, free market success.
Ooh.
Yeah, look, the free market is clearly the best because we get to exploit people and children.
Yeah. And, sex workers or sex
You
I
know,
can't. I can't even
it
make a
was a
joke.
tough
This
thing
is
because I do want to refer
terrible.
to it as sex work, but when you're forced into it,
Right,
it's not
right.
work.
It's
That is
not.
sex
Yeah, no.
slavery.
It's yes, sex slavery.
Yeah. Yeah. So good on you, Tom DeLay. You fucking did
So
it.
is it really even capitalism then, guys?
Ooh, yeah. I don't. Ooh, I'll move on. That's too depressing to think
Yeah.
about. So Jack Abramoff worked with DeLay to make legislation that would extend the Commonwealth's exemptions from basic labor rights and minimum wage. By 1998, there had been an administration change in the Commonwealth, and due to the need to cut expenses, the contract with Abramoff was suspended, which is kind of hilarious because the Commonwealth actually didn't have a contract with Abramoff's lobbying group since 1996.
It's like a wink and a handshake.
They had kept paying them, and Jack did the work, but there was no paperwork to make it official, which, based on Commonwealth law, was a violation of the government. The violation the government should not have been doing.
Was this because one of the parties didn't want a paper trail, or?
I'm going to go with Occam's razor on this and just say they forgot.
Oh, fair enough. Yeah.
So, despite the suspension of the contract in 1998, Jack actually still did a little bit of side work pro bono for the islands, like sending out mailers in Alabama to have constituents tell their congressmen to fight, and I shit you not, quote, the radical left from keeping Chinese citizens from working in the Northern Mariana Islands.
No.
The radical left is keeping the Chinese from working in America. But the reason behind this is that they felt that when the Chinese came to the Northern Mariana Islands, they were given Bibles and introduced Christianity. And then when they went home, they would introduce Christianity in China.
Oh, this also has some weird, like, Protestant shtick to it, too.
Yeah, it's missionary work via poor labor conditions.
Oh, no.
By 2000, his pro bono work would end up paying off. The Commonwealth House had just elected a new speaker, and he was dead set on making sure that the Abramoff contract was restarted. And that speaker was Benigno Fitial. The new contract would officially end in 2001, but this is mainly because Abramoff went off to a new lobbying company and they just didn't feel the need to follow him. And this was mainly because all efforts to make the Commonwealth follow labor laws and pay minimum wage were pretty much done. And over the 6-year period, the Commonwealth would pay Jack Abramoff and his lobbying firm $6.7 million.
You could have used that money to raise wages or like offset the minimum. Oh my God, that's so much money.
Or you could get a Toyota Highlander for yourself.
No.
I don't know what the argument is here.
Think of all the Olive Garden you could go to.
Oh my God, so fucking much. I know those breadsticks are never ending, but I feel like they are going to charge extra if you go completely ham on it.
One way to find out.
Oh my God, I want to embarrass myself in an Olive Garden. What were we talking about? Politics? Politics. So the entire Abramoff story is a tale to tell another day. But shortly before Benigno would make his first run for governor, Jack would be indicted for one of his many crimes. In 2000, he tried to buy the Sun Cruise casinos, but they needed to get a loan of $60 million to do that. So he created a fake wire transfer to make it look like he already made a down payment of $23 million to then be able to get that loan. He and his partner, Adam Kiden, got the loan, and the deal went through. And they probably would have gotten away with it if it wasn't for Adam Kiden having a terrible control of his temper. So when they bought the casinos, they kept on the former owner, Gus Boulis, to just kind of stay on the board and work there. And Adam and Gus did not get along, to the point that they got into a fist fight during the very first meeting they had together.
Oh no.
And Adam was so mad that this happened that he hired 3 dudes to kill Gus Boulis.
I'm sorry, what?
Yeah, in what is described as a mafia-like hit, they killed Gus Boulis.
That escalated quickly?
Yeah. So cops very quickly figured out, like, oh, Adam did this. And the dominoes fell as they started to actually look into the deal and everything surrounded it. And lo and behold, they discovered a wire fraud.
Oh my God, these idiots.
This would eventually evolve into an extensive probe that unearthed all of Jack's crimes and his 24 accomplices, most of whom were high-ranking members or aides in the Republican Party. And he would eventually be sentenced to 6 years in prison, which Jonathan Gold would call, quote, beautiful. But anyway,
the only good thing about Jack Abramoff is the proof that occasionally white collar crime does seek time. Like
Yeah.
occasionally you do have one of these sleaze bags goes to something a little bit harder than Club Fed.
I was thinking about this because it is weird the extent that had to occur for this to happen. Like a guy had to have a dude killed. And for some reason I kept going back to my teenage years when I used to work in a movie theater. And I was one of those hard asses that would get really mad when teenagers tried to sneak into R-rated movies. Not because I didn't think they should watch it. It's just if I see you doing it, you're insulting me to my face. And
Mm.
that's what makes me pissed. I probably shouldn't have been a narc about it, but a part of me is like, go fuck yourselves. At least be cool about it.
Yeah.
Be a little sneaky. And
I
so I
just
think
want to know you hold shame in your
exactly.
heart.
I want to know that you're trying. You're genuinely trying. And, I feel like it's that way with at least the police involved in this, where it's like, you could have tried. You hid your crime badly. You hid your other crimes even worse. So fuck you. So back to May 6th, 2005. And it's on this day, Walter F. Roche Jr. and Chuck Neubauer of the Los Angeles Times, when they released their article detailing why Benigno was so dead set on getting Abramoff's contract renewed. So, December 1999, I know we're bouncing around in time a lot here, two aides of Congressman Tom DeLay traveled to Saipan with the purpose of meeting up with Benigno. Benigno had just won his race to get back into the House, and he wanted more than anything to be the new Speaker of the House. The thing, though, is, as David Diggs has sang, he just didn't have the votes. The aides, though, had a solution. Maybe if they could speak to a couple of people who were on the fence, they could convince them to vote for Benigno. Fitial would later state that he was friends with both the aides and was thankful that they were so willing to help him out. And the aides would select a pair of Democratic members of the House as their targets, Alejo Mendiola and Norman Palacios. Now, there aren't any transcripts as to what was said in these meetings, but I think I can paraphrase things fairly accurately. The aides would bring up voting for Fitial. The House members would say they really hadn't decided on who they were voting for. And then the aides would remind these House members that they worked for Tom DeLay, who was a very high-ranking member of Congress and a member of the House Appropriations Committee, which decides where money goes. So, if you have an infrastructure project that you really need funded, I bet we could talk to Tom and push for it to be on the next appropriations bill.
Those are some nice bridge plans. Love to see that get built.
Exactly. And so, of course, they had things that needed to be fixed. The infrastructure has not been great recently. And so Palacios really wanted to fix a breakwater on the island of Tinian. A breakwater is kind of like, I keep thinking of it as a water alley. It's not so much a river as like a water collective area where you can fish a lot easier and you can move up and down river a lot better. So it's really important to the infrastructure on an island for that to be okay.
Yeah, and it's like no matter what, it's generally calmer. So it's just a good place to dock boats and then like kind of get your shit together before you go out to sea.
And Mendiola noted that the airport in Rota was really bad. Like the runway in particular really needed to be repaved. And if you could get money for that, that would be great. And the aides were like, yeah, that's no problem. The thing, though, is you have to vote for Benigno Fitial to be Speaker of the House. And once you do that, we'll honor our side of the deal.
Oh, jeez.
And so, sure enough, they both vote for Benigno. And all of a sudden, the appropriations bill has money for these two projects.
Wow.
And as a thanks for the aides for doing this, Benigno suddenly starts pushing for Governor Peter Tenorio to reinstate the Abramoff contract. Per an email the LA Times got, which was from Benigno to an aide of the governor, quote, "Please urge Governor Tenorio to execute the agreement, as we will continue to encounter problems if the contract is not executed. We need Abramoff to save our economy. Please help. 2 exclamation points," which I assume is the professional 3 exclamation points, but I really don't know. On top of this, Fitial introduced 2 resolutions to get the House to get Tenorio to reinstall the contract, which the governor finally did by the end of July 2000. So that being said, the contract would expire the next year, which really coincided strangely with Benigno deciding, hey, I'm going to run for governor. And sure, Abramoff and DeLay both donated to Benigno's campaign, but you can't really read into that, right? I mean, that could
anyone can donate to a campaign.
Look, he's not running for governor to satisfy his friend Willie Tan and Jack Abramoff to make them both wildly rich and then himself rich in the process. That makes no sense. So after losing his campaign in 2001, he would press both the incumbent and incoming governors to reinstate the Abramoff contract, stating, quote, "The 9/11 terror attacks have created an urgent need for Jack's continued services."
We did not just use a 9/11 reference to get money, sir.
Look, that was exactly
too fresh.
That was exactly my response.
Too soon.
I hate to say it, he actually had a point for bringing up 9/11.
Go on.
Due to the Northern Marianas Islands immigration policies being so lax, it was very easy to get, Filipino and Chinese immigrants into work. The thing that the Bush administration was worried about, particularly the Department of Defense, is that who's to say that a member of the Taliban can't take advantage of this? Like, oh, I'm from Western China and I am here to work. And then all of a sudden slip into Guam and then slip into America. Boom, you got a terror going.
Okay, well, maybe just pay employees a living, respectable wage, and then they won't want to do death to America.
Una, America. I think I made my point. Don't make me put on Toby Keith. I have it ready.
Don't make me slap this yellow ribbon on my SUV.
I will remember so fucking hard.
Remember all day.
So the only reason that Benigno found out about these plans from the Department of Justice is that Jack Abramoff had a dude that he was bribing in the Department of Justice who told him this was coming. Bribing with like skybox tickets and fancy meals and shit.
Cole's cash.
Cole's cash. The Justice Department would end up telling the LA Times that this was never a concern of theirs and that Abramoff was just making it up to try to extort more money from the Northern Mariana Islands. There are future things that I think would prove that this is not true, that it actually was something they believed, they just weren't wanting to make it public. Mainly because if you made it public, suddenly you're giving the Taliban ideas on how to come over here.
Yeah. Then you're basically Dare, but with terrorism.
Here's the glass case of ways to get in.
Yeah.
So Abramoff would make one final contact with the Northern Mariana government on October of 2001, where he told them, quote, "I wish the situation was not as critical as it is, but unfortunately our enemies have not gone away." He then followed that up by taking complete credit for saving the Commonwealth from financial disaster all these years. And once again, the contract would be extended, but only for a few months because it got canceled by Juan Babada after he won the election in 2001.
Oh, thank God.
When asked by the LA Times if this was all clearly an example of quid pro quo, Benigno said, quote, no, this was no I give you something, you give me something. Which is what quid pro quo means.
No.
And the man is bad at words.
No. Oh, this is so tragic.
And especially, like, if you remember, his competition is weaving poetry out of crying over spilled milk into a beautiful tapestry of shame. And this is the best that Benigno has when the LA Times comes a calling.
Oh, I mean, it was bad enough that he opens with repeated no's.
Yeah.
It's just
big loud no's, exclamation points.
But no.
Look, if I Meisner know enough, I'm clearly innocent.
You say two, then you realize it's a double negative, which means a positive, and then you have to keep going.
So a quick reminder, this is all happening while Benigno is running for governor again in 2005.
Oh,
with most people, they would take this as an opportunity to say, I am bowing out. Clearly, this isn't going to work out for me.
I'm going to spend more time with my family.
Exactly. Yeah, your family's there. They're not legally, they can't judge you for your bad shit. I don't fucking know. It's in the Bible, I guess. But instead he doubles down in only the way he knows how, by getting mad that anyone thought badly of him. He would double down and say that Jack Abramoff and himself did nothing wrong, and that Abramoff's lobbying saved the Commonwealth, and that if he won the election, he is going to immediately rehire Jack to lobby for them once again. And I hate to say it, but the Abramoff shit did not affect the race whatsoever.
Like good or bad?
Not even a little.
Wow. Well, all right.
So instead of having to focus on his shady dealings, Benigno instead got to focus entirely on remedying the mistakes of his 2001 campaign. He began his public outreach face-to-face, but also began to do what he called cheering events. And I hate to say it, I kind of like. So what he would do is he would get 100 of his supporters to line up along a busy street to just wave flags and banners for a few hours as a show of support. To show that, yes, I'm a third-party candidate, but here are 100 people who took Sunday evening off to show how much they support me. And it would go on for potentially a mile or two. And these things would grow week after week to the point that at the end of the campaign, he had 600 people volunteering for this.
Ooh.
And it's a nice, cheap way. Like, you're not paying for billboards or anything. It's a pretty cheap way to advertise. Second, Benigno started racking up important endorsements. And this included the former governor of Guam, Joseph Ada, who had been Fitial's roommate in college, as well as the mayors of Saipan and Rota, and the co-founder of the Commonwealth's Democratic Party. But the big move that Benigno had was playing on the family discord that was sweeping the Commonwealth. Since Juan Babada was the incumbent, he was viewed as the frontrunner. So Fitial found a guy named Joaquin Crisostemo Babada. Joaquin was a supporter of Benigno and would claim that he was also an uncle of the governor. And since, you're a direct family and you're not supporting the governor, What does that say
Ah.
about the governor?
Ah.
The thing though is Juan was very quick to say, I don't know this guy. He's not a direct uncle. He's not a brother of my dad's. If he's a relative, it's distant. But
And
that
Benino's like, fam and disarray.
And that was more than it. Like Benigno made this guy front and center at all of his events. He made him a repeated speaker at his events, consistently saying, I am a member of the Bovada family and I do not trust Juan Bovada as governor. And weirdly enough, despite these hostilities, every debate that I read was boring and cordial, and they talked about the topics, but not really. It was just like when not face to face, they were hostile as shit. Like Benigno was accusing Juan of hiring someone from the mainland to create a newspaper and a magazine as a propaganda outlet for himself, with absolutely no introspection on that statement whatsoever, because the Saipan Tribune is still very much supporting Benigno during this race. But yeah, as mean and hostile as things were, face to face, they were still cordial and kind.
Boo.
So by election day, one of the few polls showed it was a three-way tie between Benigno, Hines, and Juan. It would take a couple of weeks past election day before all the absentee votes would be counted, but in the end, Benigno Fitial would win 28% of the vote, beating Heinz Hofschneider by 84 votes.
He won?
He won by 84 votes. And not only that, the Covenant Party would keep their majority in the House and the Senate, and won nearly every mayoral election in the Commonwealth. In 4 years, Benigno Fitial had created a third party that was now in near complete control of the entire Commonwealth.
Oh my God. And the newspaper.
And a newspaper and the biggest company in the island.
And some lobbying shenanigans.
Yeah.
Oh no.
Yeah. So on January 6, 2006 was Inauguration Day. It would be the day that the Covenant Party would rise to complete power. And Benigno got to enjoy it for all of -2 days. On January 4th, Jack Abramoff would plead guilty to conspiracy and wire fraud related to the Sun Cruise casino deal and the subsequent murder that followed. Rather than focusing on his campaign promises like rehiring Jack Abramoff, Benigno was forced to spend the next couple of years putting all the fires out that he had helped start. So within the month, Benigno would be called to Montana to meet with Republican Senator Conrad Burns, who was just appalled, I tell you, that Benigno had done all these things. It would come out days later that Conrad had done the exact same shit for Abramoff in the exact same way and voted to keep labor laws out of the Northern Mariana Islands, but he's just running cover. He's running cover.
He's shocked. You hear that?
Yeah, it's a free trip to Montana. Have fun. On January 30th, Benigno would finally address the issue publicly. And he did it in his typical fuck you, I'm perfect style. He made no apology, and he made it very clear who he thought was at fault and what had to be done. Clearly, this was all on the lobbying firms that Abramoff worked for. And you know what? They should have to refund the Northern Mariana Islands all $6.7 million that were paid. If not, then Benigno is going to sue them.
Okay, I mean, that's dumb, Benigno, and you know you're not doing that. But I do love the chutzpah of just going after the bag, being like, I'm going to double down, just make sure we get more money.
Well, and he has a good basis for it. Positive benefits of those services have been undone by the wide scandal brought on by the criminal charges against Abramoff. So it's your fault. Give us money.
How dare that unethical man come to our country and then to our Commonwealth, give us so many helpful beneficiaries through his connection with your government. I do declare.
It's the shittiest thing to say, but in 6 years, Abramoff did what he wanted them to do. He did his job, as shitty as it was. You are not owed $6.7 million because a guy did the job you wanted. And the firms were not swayed by this and essentially said, go ahead, sue us. And Benigno from this would have two rallying cries for the rest of the year. We're going to sue you, and Jack Abramoff is a good man.
Oh, I don't know about the second one. I don't think that's going to test well in audiences.
As early as February, Benigno was cheering on Jack's advocacy for the Northern Mariana Islands and his undying friendship. He would cement this statement by writing a letter to the court advocating for a lesser sentence for Abramoff. And he wrote it on government stationery.
Sir,
we want our money back, and I love the man who fucked up. And once again, this ends up working. People end up forgetting about the Abramoff shit. and it just kind of all slides away. By July of 2007, Benigno is still saying that he's complying with the Abramoff probe, but he still likes his friend. He would still like the $6.6 million, and, that's it. However, he would also hurt his case for getting the money back by saying, quote, Jack did what he was paid to do, and that is to prevent the federal takeover of immigration in the Commonwealth of Northern Mariana Islands. Give us our money back.
Yes. Hello, I love saying the quiet parts loud. And give me money.
Thankfully or unluckily, depending on who you are, a new issue would come up that would make the Abramoff shit take a back seat. In August of 2007, the quest to make the Northern Mariana Islands accept U.S. immigration and labor laws would come back once again. The charge this time would be led by the non-voting delegate from the U.S. Virgin Islands, Donna Christensen. And now that Abramoff was out, and all of Fitial's old allies were either out of office or off the payroll, the bill had its best chance ever to pass. It would take a few months, but the bill would finally be introduced to the House on December 2nd. Between then, Benigno tried to rally as many forces as he could, and he got some lobbyists, but they just weren't as good as Jack. And he repeatedly said that if this law passed, it was going to utterly destroy the Northern Mariana Islands economy. The thing, though, is that the economy was already destroyed by this point. So as you'll remember, the huge crux is that we can't pay our garment workers minimum wage, and we can't have them be under U.S. labor laws because it'll cause us to lose all of our money. And by that time, it was a $1 billion industry. But in 1999, China would end up joining the World Trade Organization. And in doing so, we're no longer subject to American tariffs, which is why all of a sudden in 1999, Chinese-made goods were incredibly cheap in America. So there was no longer a need to make cheap goods in the Northern Mariana Islands where you could pay people very little, but still get a made in the USA sticker on it, so you wouldn't have to worry about tariffs.
Oh my God.
But since that's not an issue anymore, all the garment factories, nearly all of them in the Northern Mariana Islands, go right back to China, and the industry is destroyed within a decade.
Wow.
So he's still fighting for these labor laws and immigration laws, despite the fact that the garment industry is gone.
It's like there are no managers even to subjugate these immigrants anymore.
Yeah. And I imagine it's probably going on to other industries that are helpful for them, like tourism. And tourism is pretty much all that's left.
Tourism.
And tourism. And so despite the economy being fucked, Benigno said, I promise you it will get more fucked somehow if you guys do this. The Senate, though, really didn't care. The bill would pass the House, and then it passed the Senate on April 12th. And a month later, President George W. Bush would sign it into law. And finally, after decades of skirting around it, the Northern Mariana Islands had to pay federal minimum wage to everyone, had to tighten up immigration, and had to follow U.S. labor laws. But they did get the compromise of gaining a non-voting delegate in the U.S. House, just like everyone else.
I thought the compromise was like, and it was too late for it to ever matter. Congratulations.
Yep. I mean, I'm glad it's happening now.
Yes, I'm so glad it's on the books, for the record.
Benigno would respond to this by calling it, quote, the end of an era for the people and government of the Commonwealth of Northern Mariana Islands, and this will result in an economic depression for many years to come. Which kind of works out, because at least then if you say that, you can point to the bill as why things aren't getting better. It's not your fault. It's federalization.
Yes, it's regulation. It's not the fact that China is now an economic superpower.
Mm-hmm. So on June 25th, 2008, Benigno would go on live TV for 10 minutes, in which he announced his plan on how he was going to fight this. He's going to sue the government, specifically the Department of Homeland Security over the immigration issues and the Department of Labor over the labor issues. And at minimum, the case is going to cost $400,000, which was about a third of the yearly tax income the government got. So, and it's really more fucked up knowing that Benigno spent the majority of his first few years just cutting everything, just so they could keep the government running. It wasn't even cutting things just for the sake of regulation and shit. It's like, we have to close the government if we don't shut down this stuff. When the garment industry died, it knocked out a bunch of taxes and fees that they got from business. People left. And so all of a sudden, you now have to cut things by like 2 to 10% to even make payroll.
Ugh.
And so he's going to do a $400,000 lawsuit.
No. Of which what? He'll need $300,000 for his own legal needs?
Potentially, yeah. They would note that no money had been previously earmarked for this. But to make things even worse, the Saipan Tribune, of all fucking people, did an ounce of research and found that the law firm that Benigno had hired was not working under a contract, which is a violation of Northern Mariana Islands law.
How is this guy so bad with contracts?
Benigno did offer...
What is he, like a young artist?
He did offer one olive branch. and that he would present the case to the law firm. And if they decided there was no way to go with this, he would gladly back out. Because law firms, they're not just going to take a case to make money.
Right. They're not going to first ask for a retainer.
No, of course not. So nothing ends up coming of this violation of the law, and the lawyers got to work. And in the meantime, Benigno got back to work and ideally have at least a couple of calm months before the lawyers got back to him. And he would get a little less than 2. On August 13th, 2008, Lieutenant Governor Timothy Villagomez, his sister, and her husband, who just so happened to be the Secretary of Commerce, were federally indicted for theft of federal funds, conspiracy, and wire fraud. And it's the dumbest crime I think we've had thus far.
Oh my God, I can't wait.
So a little background. The utilities of the Commonwealth were run by a company called the Commonwealth Utility Corporation. Technically, they operated separate from the government, but since they were running all the utilities, the government still was able to interject if things were being run poorly, or if there was like an emergency going on, the government could say, hey, it's an emergency, we're taking things over until you're financially solvent and things are okay. When Benigno ended up winning the election, the Commonwealth Utility Corporation was in one of those states. So very quickly, he called emergency powers and he put Tim Villagomez in charge. Things kind of evened out. Despite over the year, Benigno didn't name anyone to the board of the utility company. And people were like, well, you kind of need to do that. And he's like, Tim's got it. Don't worry about it. Tim's going to run everything.
I'm a delegator. I'm not a micromanager.
I have to sue the government. So this is on Tim. So it eventually works. They come out of their financial issues. A board is named. Tim gets a step back and they name a new executive director of the utility company. But once again, after a year, they fall on financial hard times once again. An emergency declaration is made, and Tim Villagomez is put right back in charge. And this time around, Tim wants peace. Because it turns out his sister and his brother-in-law both own chemical cleaning companies. And they both had a lot of this product that's like a deliming sort of thing. So if you get like lime from sea air or anything like that, use this chemical and it washes it off, whatever you got. I don't know how that works with utility shit. I don't know if lime gets on power lines or whatever.
Yeah, but all right.
But Tim would go to the new executive director and said, hey, buy $10,000 of this deliming agent from these 2 people. You have to do it because I have emergency powers.
Oh boy. Really? Oh my God.
Yeah. So, funny thing is that since the utility corporation was in financial troubles, they were getting money from the US federal government to keep afloat and to keep the power going. And so when Tim introduced this, suddenly he's stealing federal money, making it an ultra crime. And when the government's like, hey, where's our money going? And they see $10,000 to a deliming agent, they had questions.
They were like, Delie me, governor.
Fuck off. So they go to the executive director, and he had quit by this time. They go to him and say, hey, this isn't looking good. It looks like you have done crime. Maybe you should turn on whoever made you do this. And he said, you know what? That's a wonderful idea. That's why you guys have this job. Clearly you know what you're doing. And immediately turned on Tim, his sister, and his brother-in-law. So the 3 would be indicted. It would take a while for the court case to start, so we have to hop into other stuff, but neither Villagomez or Fitial would make any comments about it, and Tim would stay in his position, refusing to resign. And besides, Benigno actually has a perfect distraction for all this shit, because the lawyers are on the phone, and they are ready to go. They have hit the gas, and we are suing the fucking government.
Yeah, we are moving forward.
Within days, the Commonwealth legislature would pass a bill saying, we are not going to give you any money for this lawsuit.
Cool.
It would barely pass the Senate by 5-4, but it was very popular in the House. So one would think that would be enough to kill the lawsuit in its tracks, but Benigno would at least pretend it was still pending up until 2009. However, it never went to court and was quietly dropped. All the laws went into effect, and finally the people had labor protection and basic pay.
Ah, Jesus.
As for Villagomez, his trial would get pushed back to April of 2009, and he and his conspirators would be found very guilty. Tim immediately resigned and was eventually sentenced to 6.5 years in prison.
Wow.
But fun fact, in December of 2012, the prison system found that they actually made a mistake in his sentencing and that there had been a calculation error. And so instead of serving 6.5 years, he would now serve 9 years.
Oh my God.
They added 2.5 years on the motherfucker. And he served every fucking year.
Damn. Wow. Why can't we get that?
Right.
Stateside.
Well, this happened in the States. He was sentenced in Phoenix, I think. Or at least he was serving his time in Phoenix.
Damn.
Yeah, last I heard, he was on probation in Idaho.
Wow.
Yeah. So in his wake, Benigno would promote his Secretary of Finance, Eloy Inos, to Lieutenant Governor. The drama of 2009 wouldn't be over yet, though, because on September 30th, Benigno's personal driver Pete Reyes would be arrested by the DEA for selling drugs within 1,000 feet of a playground.
You couldn't walk 5 feet in another direction?
It gets worse. So the DEA had been tracking him for a while and had learned his schedule pretty well. Pete's typical day was drive Benigno to work, use the government's Toyota Highlander to drive around and buy and sell meth, and then pick up Benigno and drive him home.
Oh my God.
And like I said, Pete's biggest fuck up would come the day that he just decided to stay in the parking lot after dropping off Fitial and just did a deal right in front of Fitial's office, which is right next door to a playground.
This is like dumb Goodfellas.
Dumb fellas?
Yeah, this is dumb fellas.
So after his arrest, Benigno wasn't to be actually more pissed at the DEA than Pete. He felt that the agency should have told him what Pete was up to so he could fire him, and said that by letting Pete continue to drive him, he was putting his family at risk and danger of dying. Which, knowing Benigno, I think the reason they didn't tell you is that you were probably going to tell Pete.
Yeah, you would have been in on the you would have wanted a cut from the meth deals.
Yep, and I'm sure as the DEA or ATF would say, no one died, so this is a plus in our books.
Oh boy.
Oh shit, did I forget to mention that 2009 is a re-election year?
No.
Benigno's running for re-election while all this shit is going down. His personal driver is dealing meth. His lieutenant governor had to resign due to doing shit crime. He's trying to sue the government, and he's running for re-election. And to make it all the worse, the GOP has actually learned its lesson and had a primary.
Hey,
so
Juan
Babauta and Heinz Hofschneider would face off once again, and Heinz ended up winning by 6%. And immediately after the win, it seemed like Juan and Heinz were actually in the same room when the primary was done. Juan walks right up to Heinz, gives him the biggest bear hug possible, and then turns to the crowd and says, I immediately endorse him. Let's fucking do this.
Oh, this is so lovely. It's great when you have like truly a common enemy.
Exactly. And not only does Ben have to face a united GOP, but he gets to have Democrats not even running. 2001, by all accounts, seems to have just kneecapped the Democratic Party in the Commonwealth. This time around, they're not running anyone for governor, barely running anyone for the legislature, and there might be a couple local positions in Saipan that they're running, but essentially they're done.
They're going the way of the Whigs as our own Democrats came to power.
I mean, womp. And sure, there are two other independent candidates running, but by all rights, the stars have realigned to ruin Benigno, or one would think. Again, there's minimal info on this campaign, but it seems that the electorate was kind of split. The one thing I could find about it is that a lot of people found Heinz to be very John Kerry-like. That, you know, he knows his shit, but he's not exactly charming, and he could be kind of brusque every once in a while.
Sure. A little Germanic, perhaps.
Exactly. But Benigno talks like the people. Apparently his voice is calming to some. I heard his voice. I don't get it. But yeah, he's like that George W. Bush. You can have a beer with the guy. And so he has that like down-home charm. In the general election, Heinz would end up beating Benigno by 8 votes. However, this was the one thing that Benigno actually got done that he promised. No longer is the winner on a plurality. It's now a majority. And since neither candidate got 50%, Benigno and Heinz are moving on to a runoff.
No.
And Benigno wins the runoff by 370 votes.
Damn.
It's an extra bummer because at the beginning of the campaign, Benigno said that if he lost, he would retire from politics forever.
Oh, we were so close.
And to make it even worse, typically, even today, the governor tenure is 4 years. This time around, they switched it to 5 years so they could start electing governor on even numbered years. The legislature odd, governor even.
You can drop it down to a 3?
No, that seemed unfair. It's 5 years.
Boo.
So as is tradition from his last term, Benigno started it by falling ass first into scandal. So Benigno suffers from really bad back problems, and the older I get, the more I can empathize with that. And while most take painkillers to deal with the issue, Ben found a solution that was more successful and less prone to addiction: massages. In particular, he hired a personal masseuse by the name of King Mei Cheng, who would come to the governor's home to help him whenever his back pain became too difficult to deal with. Now, I know what you're thinking. This is a sex thing, right? And from what I saw, that is wrong. It seems like this is 100% a back pain issue, because Benigno's wife was present during all this shit. And they don't strike me as the type to do a throuple.
I love this, and I suddenly feel very connected to our protagonist this week because I would love to be in a position where I could become addicted to massage
Yeah,
therapy.
like on-call massages sounds so, from someone who knows what they're doing, sounds
Yeah.
amazing. I have
Oh
had one
God.
professional massage, and I think I fell asleep like 2 or 3 times during the process. It is
Nice.
otherworldly.
Yep.
You make noises you didn't know you were capable of, but they're still like fine. They're not weird. At least I don't think so.
Yeah. Sometimes you cry because the
Yeah.
knot is emotional as well as musculature.
Yeah, it's amazing how much pain you can sleep through. So, on the night of January 15th, 2010, Ben is suffering from a particularly bad bout of back pain. It's 3 a.m. He can't go to sleep, and he needs Cheng to help him. So he calls her on. She arrives, and Ben's wife watches as she massages him until he finally falls asleep. This, in and of itself, is not the scandalous part. If anything, it's a jealousy-inducing part because to get on-call masseuse work at 4 a.m., my fucking god.
Yeah, no, it's like anti-jealousy though, because frankly, I'm pissed off on behalf of his wife that she has to suddenly now wake up
Right,
at 3 in the morning so
right.
someone else can get a
Yeah.
massage. That's
Hey,
bullshit.
you need to wake up so no one thinks I'm cheating on you. It's
It's
not
like
like we have a relationship based on trust. Also, I'm the governor and people are going to assume shit. So just stay awake.
also, interestingly enough, like I did not, my mind did not first go to sex scandal because I have not gotten like creepy ick factor from Ben. I've just gotten like incompetence factor over and over and over
That is
again.
100% fair. That is,
Yeah.
yeah, he's been very devoted to his wife. I know we didn't talk about it, but she was like a server at a restaurant, and I
Sure.
believe she's originally from the Philippines. So them getting together was like a minor scandal since she's not
Mm.
from there. But yeah, he
Mm.
seems entirely devoted and in love with her. So I can't. I got to give him the Andrew
Oh.
Jackson seal of approval. Dude at least loves his
Hey,
wife.
he loves his wife. He's a
So
wife guy.
yeah. So the late night massage isn't the scandalous part of this. The scandal comes due to the fact that when Cheng arrived, she was brought by multiple corrections officers. So essentially what had happened is on January 8th, Cheng was arrested with a partner due to her trying to smuggle 22 immigrants from the Northern Mariana Islands to Guam and had been caught in the process. And this, going from the Marianas Islands to Guam, is a federal crime of human trafficking. And she was
Oh
placed
my,
in federal prison.
oh my God. But she still had to give the
So
massages.
here's the thing is that since she arrived with corrections officers, it sure seemed a lot like Ben got her out of prison just to give him a massage.
Scandale.
So Cheng would end up going to trial, but the repercussions for Benigno would take a while to form. The government tried really, really hard to call Benigno as a witness, but the judge is like, he wasn't there when she was smuggling people. It's not related. We'll get to it. But yeah, in the meantime, he's got a Commonwealth to run. And by that, I mean that by October of that year, the government had to partially shut down because they were out of money.
Oh.
And yeah, that's tough, but funds would arrive to reopen the government and allow Ben to do a whole other shady scheme. On October 21st, 2010, a letter would be sent to Vice President Joe Biden that thought that he or someone in the federal government should look into this contract that got signed in the Northern Marianas Islands. It had been a $400,000 no bid contract, which meant that it was not open to the public.
Right.
There were not multiple companies pitching lower bids. It was just, we like this company, you get this contract.
Zero competition.
The company was called Integrated Professional Solutions and had been founded by Fitial's Commerce Secretary Joseph Ada. So Ada had resigned 1 month prior to that. I believe this might be the same Joseph Ada who had been the former governor of Guam. I don't know. It might just be a similar name, but he had resigned and started this company. But the big problem was that Integrated Professional Solutions had been 1 day old when they were given the no bid contract.
Oh my God.
And again, it would take a while before this sowing would turn into reaping. The next big what the fuck moment would come January 8th, 2011, because Ben really seems to love midwinter chaos. In a shocking move, Benigno left the Covenant Party and rejoined the GOP. So rumors were that he had tried to convince the entirety of the Covenant Party to merge with the Republicans, but neither party was really interested in doing that. And so while it is kind of weird for him to bail on a party that only a few years prior had complete control of the island government, their fortunes had kind of faded. In the 2009 election, the GOP was now in control, and they were controlling the House and the Senate. And so it kind of makes sense that he'd want to rejoin the party in power. And, he could be powerful with his own party, but he would be more powerful if he just rejoined the Republicans and still maintain this non-divisive grasp on law, I suppose. If that makes sense.
Right. Let's just make this whole island a single party.
Yeah. I mean, if anything, it's the best guess I can give. And so, yeah, so he just bails on his party and he's a Republican again. And, he's got a House and Senate behind him for a full year and a half. And thanks to this, he had no drama or controversy or scandal to speak of during this time. Things were finally going okay. On August 1st of 2012, Benigno got word that the Commonwealth Auditor was preparing to file charges of misconduct and corruption on Attorney General Edward Buckingham. And it turns out a few of those misconduct charges came from striking down cases related to the massage incident. So Buckingham would resign, mainly because of family reasons, you know how it is, but also decided he had to get the fuck out of the Commonwealth before he got arrested. On the morning of August 4th, he made his way to the airport, but he wouldn't go alone, because Benigno had ensured that Edward got a police escort to the airport with the sole purpose of keeping him from being pulled over and arrested. It would end up being pointless, though, because when Edward got to the airport, the FBI was sitting there waiting for him.
Yeah, what do you think would happen at a port of entry?
They gave Edwards a penal summons, told him you have to be back in court by the 6th, and let him get on his flight.
This man is obviously a flight risk. He's literally, you met him at the airport.
No.
Do you even know where he's flying to?
The answer is Colorado, where he would hide for a number of years and never return to the Northern Mariana Islands.
This is so dumb. I can't believe it's Colorado, too. He didn't even go somewhere like edgy.
No, look, man's got to ski. Got to ski your troubles away. So when approached by the Saipan Tribune about this, Benigno would state that he felt that the auditor had a political vendetta against Buckingham, and that he had no issue with the former attorney general just skipping town. The problem, though, is one person did have a problem with this. Independent member of the House, Joseph De Leon Guerrero, had just about enough of Ben's shit. He was in the minority, but that didn't stop him from filing motions for impeachment on August 28th based on, quote, multiple felonies, multiple acts of public corruption. The motion wouldn't pass, and Benigno would state that this occurred because Joseph, quote, didn't have enough Catholic education.
Oh, get some aloe for that burn.
Yeah, it was a really weird quote, and I was hoping you might have more insight on that, but I think he's just saying he's an ungodly jackass.
Wait, hold on, back up. Who's calling who not Catholic enough?
Benigno is calling Joseph, who filed the articles of impeachment, of having not enough Catholic education.
Yeah, well, considering what goes on in the Catholic Church and how much gets shoved under an enormous rug there, yeah, Benigno, I guess so. I guess he sees hypocrisy for what it is. And feels rightly to call it out.
Yup. But what Joseph did have to make up for the lack of Catholic education was patience. Following the 2003 legislative election, the tide of power had shifted, and suddenly, Joseph's independent faction was now in power, and he had also been named Speaker of the House. He would file 18 charges of impeachment one day after everyone had been inaugurated. These charges were based on the massage scandal, helping Buckingham escape, offering that no-bid contract, and also failing to fill multiple government positions in a timely manner. This included, between March 2006 and July 2012, he failed to nominate anyone to the Civil Service Commission. Between September 2011 and March 2012, he failed to nominate anyone to the Public Utilities Commission. Beginning October 2011, he failed to nominate anyone to the Commonwealth Supreme Court and still hadn't. Beginning March of 2012, he failed to nominate anyone for commission for the Department of Public Safety. Beginning April of 2012, he didn't nominate anyone to be Secretary of the Department of Public Lands. And beginning on April of 2012, he didn't nominate anyone to be Secretary of Public Works.
Wow, that is not a little bit.
No, he'd essentially been running most of those departments in the meantime.
And maybe check on where that salary went.
Yeah, look, he's just trying to save money.
Ugh.
So Benigno would be impeached by the House on February 11th by a vote of 16-4 or 16-3-1, depending on the charges. The no votes were all Republican, while the yes were a mix of independent and remaining members of the Covenant Party. Fitial would now have to go to trial before the Senate, unless he didn't want to. And he did that by resigning due to health reasons on February 20th. Eloy Inos would become governor in his stead, and the very last Covenant Party governor.
Wow.
And quickly after resigning, Benigno got the fuck out of town.
Oh my God. Flight risk number 2.
So some claimed that he was in the Philippines having gallbladder surgery, but others said, I saw him in San Diego and he's just chilling and laying low.
I have a blurry photo of him from outside Seattle.
He's the Squash, I knew it. So either way, when it came time to issue him summons to appear in court, he was nowhere to be found. And so he never went to court.
Oh my God.
As for the Covenant Party, Eloy Inos would remain a member of the party until 2013. He would also try to merge the Covenant Party into the GOP, but that got shot down. I think the GOP just wanted them to be gone forever and not have to hear Covenant Party ever again.
Yeah.
So Eloy joins the GOP, and very quickly after, most of the other members followed suit. The party that had risen to meteoric local power in 5 years was dead after 12. Edward Buckingham would be arrested in 2014 in Colorado and extradited back to the Northern Mariana Islands. He was found guilty, mainly because he took a plea agreement to 7 of the charges. He was given 3.5 years in prison, which was a suspended sentence so he wouldn't have to go, fined $14,000, banned from working in the Commonwealth government for up to 20 years, and placed on a year of unsupervised probation.
This is all a slap on the wrist. I'm sorry.
The state of Colorado also suspended his law license for a year and a half.
Now we're getting somewhere.
Yeah, it's at least something. And since then, Benigno Fitial has been an utter ghost.
Wow.
At some point, I think he returned to the Northern Mariana Islands, and he kind of seems to have settled into a non-public life. He has made the news recently. There's a gubernatorial race this year in which he has endorsed the independent candidate Arnold Palacios. And fun fact, this is actually going to be the first gubernatorial race in the islands that has a Democratic candidate since 2005.
Good for them.
That's the story of Benigno Fitial. I mean,
wow.
A man who accomplished the near impossible by making a successful third party, threw it away the second it was convenient for him to do so, and suffered zero consequences for a massive horrific shit he did and supported.
Yeah, he bounced like Kaiser Sose in the end.
And then came back with no issues.
I am livid at just the greasy gray beigeness of how utterly corrupt everyone in this story is, and yet it's like, but there's nothing like personality wise like juicy to sink into. It's
he's
just
a
like
boring guy who does shit.
He's just incompetent and terrible.
Yeah, he's a wife guy who doesn't work well with words. And, you know, he did say at one point that once you were a friend of his, you were a friend of his for life. And so he was never going to turn on Abramoff at any point, but he still was trying to get money back. And it's just like, at least if you're going to do a grift, commit enough to get the money back. Like, throwing Abramoff under the bus isn't a bad thing. Everyone did it. And they're still friends.
And they should.
Now. It's, oh my God, it's so fucking frustrating. But yeah, the upcoming gubernatorial race is really interesting because it is really disheartening reading how much corruption has existed within the Northern Mariana Islands government. That it's
the people deserve so much better.
It is buck wild what people get away with. So the current Republican incumbent's a guy named Ralph Torres. He was impeached this year, but didn't get kicked out of office. Yeah, there's Arnold Palacios who's running as an independent, and then there's Tina Sablin who's running as a Democrat who seems to be not corrupt. She's the first woman to ever receive a nomination for governor in the Northern Mariana Islands. She was a reporter for a number of years. She runs the Commonwealth Anti-Cancer Group. It's interesting. I feel like she actually has a chance to win. I don't want to say that she is free of corruption just because the track record hasn't been great. Yeah. But, she actually cares about racial disparities in healthcare and might actually care about the entire population of the Northern Marianas Islands and not just the Carolinian and Chamorro population. It's, it's interesting. It's very interesting. The Democrats, as I've said, have never had the best of luck. But,
fingers crossed.
We'll see. We'll fucking see. And she's 41, so that's fun too. It's always nice. It's always nice to see an elder millennial making but that's the fucking story of Benigno Fitial.
Wow. Well, I feel like it's so incredibly appropriate that we did this episode on our Commonwealth as we lay to rest Her Majesty the Queen.
Oh my God, yeah.
And figure out what's happening with their Commonwealth.
Yeah, she died so young, I suppose.
She died so young.
Yeah.
She was taken from us too soon.
Yeah, I have no opinions. I think Anthony Bourdain said it best, fuck no, I hate the monarchy.
Yep. But it's always good to be reminded that, yes, We too have commonwealths, and we should maybe do something about this.
Yeah. Yeah,
Ooh.
Massachusetts and Virginia. Fucking
Oh
get
yeah, I
with the
guess those are
program.
commonwealths too. God damn it.
Yeah.
Okay, well, statehood then. Fine. I don't know.
Well, I guess we'll see you guys next week. It's very exciting. We're recording a couple Gadfly movie nights coming out, so we're really excited to release those at some point in time. Also today, as we're recording, it's the very last primary day before election day, so that's very exciting. I mean, technically, Louisiana has theirs on election day. They're fucking stupid. I hate it.
Wild,
Yeah,
wild, those drunks.
those gator fucking drunks. Actually, we do great numbers in Louisiana, I'm sure. Um,
Allegedly. I mean, allegedly.
allegedly, they're drunk. Uh,
We love you, Louisiana.
yeah,
I want your
actually do.
beignets. I want you to let me in.
And on that note, thank you all for listening. We'll see you next week on Gadfly. Blah, 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 blah. Fuck the gators. Gadfly is a production of Added Serotonin. Our episodes are edited by Brianna Valentine of Rem Alternus Productions. Our theme song is Sophomore Makeout by Silent Partner, and you can find us on Twitter and Instagram at GadflyPod.
Ready to level up your cosplay game? Check out the Geek Forge on Etsy. With a variety of props to give your photos that extra spark, you'll find just what you need. Hold magical fire in the palm of your hand, or take a potion to restore your mana. With a large variety of colors, you can choose your own magical flavor for your cosplay. Bring drama to your photo shoots with these vibrant props and more, all available at the Geek Forge. Are you ready to level up your cosplay?